Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're going to completely dismantle the viral misinformation surrounding cortisol and honestly discover the real, fascinating science behind your body's stress response. If you've been scrolling online lately, you've probably heard that cortisol is the absolute worst thing for your health. But what if I told you that almost everything you've been sold about this hormone is actually fundamentally backwards? All right, let's just dive right in. Look, we really need to address the very real exhaustion and burnout that so many of us feel. It's a genuine, super difficult modern experience, right? But we kind of have to question if blaming our own baseline biology is the right answer here. I mean, is one single hormone really responsible for every bad day, every breakout, and literally every ounce of fatigue? Well, the internet certainly thinks cortisol is the ultimate villain. Hashtags about reducing cortisol have racked up well over 140 million views. That is absolutely wild. And because of that, we're constantly bombarded with endless ads for adaptogen powders, detox teas, and, $18 smoothies that promise to somehow flush this hormone out of your system. It's basically become the internet's favorite scapegoat for literally every midlife inconvenience. So, moving right into section 1, the internet's favorite villain, and really a victim of incredibly bad PR. To understand how this totally vital hormone got such a terrible reputation, we really have to look at how we talk about it. This quote from Dr. Fred Schaffer absolutely hits the nail on the head. He says calling it merely a stress hormone is like calling oxygen a fire accelerant. Taking cortisol out of context like that ignores that it's actually a necessary, super helpful multitasker. Yes, it responds to stress, but guys, if you had zero cortisol, you wouldn't just feel calm. You'd be in a life-threatening medical crisis. We literally need it to survive. Which brings us to section 2, cortisol, your built-in support. Time to meet your body's ultimate multitasker. Okay, let's completely reframe cortisol here. It is not a toxic enemy. Instead, think of it as your body's built-in battery saver mode. It's not a glitch at all. It's a highly evolved, totally brilliant adaptation system. The actual command center for this hormone is the HPA axis. You can basically picture this as a highly complex internal thermostat that's constantly monitoring your environment and your internal state, tweaking your biological settings just to keep you safe and functioning. So here's exactly how that thermostat works. When you face a stressor, say slamming on your brakes in terrible traffic, or maybe pushing through a really tough deadline, your brain's sensor, the hypothalamus, signals the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland then acts as a messenger. It tells the adrenal glands, which are sitting right there on top of your kidneys, to release cortisol directly into your bloodstream. And why? To give you the immediate energy you need to cope with that exact challenge in front of you. And here is the absolutely crucial point. Your cortisol levels naturally fluctuate. They are actually supposed to go up and down. It peaks in the early morning, basically acting as your body's natural built-in alarm clock to get you out of bed and feeling alert. Then it gradually lowers throughout the afternoon, eventually hitting its absolute lowest point at night so your body can repair itself and you can actually get some sleep. And get this, even when you aren't stressed out at all, cortisol is actively working behind the scenes. It's managing how your body uses carbohydrates, fats, and proteins for energy. It naturally suppresses inflammation to help you heal. It actively constricts your blood vessels to keep your blood pressure stable. And exactly like we just saw, it controls your entire sleep-wake cycle. It's doing a lot. It's even a hero in the gym. A lot of people have this fear that cortisol breaks down muscle mass. But fitness expert Dr. Lane Norton actually points out that the short-term cortisol spike you get from lifting heavy weights is really a sign of a fantastic muscle-building workout. Cortisol works really slowly at the cellular level over time, so a short spike from exercise, that's definitely not melting your muscles. In fact, studies show that a temporary cortisol increase is just a sign you effectively stress the tissue enough to force it to grow stronger. All right, moving on to section 3, debunking viral cortisol myths, where we are going to fact-check the internet. So now that we know what it actually does, let's do a rapid-fire takedown of the biggest lies circulating online right now. First up is this idea of adrenal fatigue. You see this literally everywhere, claiming your adrenal glands are just tired from pumping out too much cortisol. Well, let's be super clear here. Adrenal fatigue is not a recognized medical condition. Period. Now, don't get me wrong, your symptoms like the brain fog and the exhaustion, those are very, very real, but they're driven by lifestyle burnout, poor sleep hygiene, and unmanaged chronic stress. It's not your adrenal glands simply failing to do their job.
Next up, we have the infamous cortisol face. We've all seen the influencers claiming your puffy face is a dead giveaway of toxic cortisol levels. But in reality, those day-to-day changes in facial puffiness are usually just from a lack of sleep, maybe crying, your menstrual cycle, or honestly, just eating salty foods. True cortisol-driven facial rounding actually happens in a really rare disease called Cushing's syndrome. And I promise you, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, progressive symptom, not a sudden endocrine collapse just because you had a really stressful week at work.
And hey, what about those super expensive adaptogen supplement bundles you're constantly being sold? Well, the medical reality is that they completely lack strong clinical evidence for magically fixing your cortisol. And it gets worse. Independent testing has actually found hidden, totally undisclosed steroids and thyroid hormones in some of these over-the-counter adrenal support products. So wild as it sounds, you could actively be harming your endocrine system with the very products that are claiming to heal it. Now, this next quote perfectly explains why those pricey at-home saliva tests are, well, practically useless. Because your cortisol naturally fluctuates wildly based on the time of day, how well you slept, and even what you just ate for breakfast. A single snapshot tells you absolutely nothing. Without a real doctor's context and validated medical testing protocols, an at-home test is honestly just an expensive random number generator. Which brings us to Section 4, real disorders are rare and when you should actually worry. To really put things into perspective here, let's contrast these fake internet diseases with actual medical realities. Look at that tiny fraction, 0.004 to 0.007%. That is the actual percentage of the population affected by Cushing's syndrome, which is a true medical disorder of excessively high cortisol. And Addison's disease, which is dangerously low cortisol, is similarly rare. The vast majority of people blaming cortisol online do not have a hormone problem. What they have is a stress problem.
So when should you actually go see a doctor? You should be seeking a proper medical evaluation for cortisol if you have progressive, really severe signs. We're talking about rapid weight gain specifically focused in the upper body, extreme muscle weakness in your arms and thighs, unexplained wide purple stretch marks, or persistent high blood pressure that just won't respond to normal treatment. If you have these things, please go see a doctor, not TikTok. Let's head into Section 5, Evidence-Based Stress Management, where we look at real science and real solutions.
So, since the vast majority of us definitely don't have a rare endocrine disorder, how do we actually fix our very real feelings of modern burnout? Well, the evidence-based solutions are actually completely free and deeply effective. Number one is establishing a strict sleep routine. I'm talking a consistent 7 to 9 hours, because poor sleep is the single biggest driver of cortisol imbalance. Combine that with some gentle movement, structured stress reduction like deep breathing, and just fueling your body consistently with protein and fiber. Doing those basic things will naturally balance your HPA axis over time. But getting this right also requires some subtraction. This means finally putting down the energy drinks. It means stopping the extreme diets and skipping meals, which literally send your body into a panic state. It means putting your phone away to stop doom scrolling late into the night. And honestly, it means saving your hard-earned money instead of buying unproven, overpriced detox teas. Your body's stress response is incredibly sophisticated, guys. It is constantly adapting to the exact lifestyle you're feeding it. So I want to leave you with this one question. Instead of constantly fighting your own biology and trying to detox a hormone that is literally keeping you alive, what would happen if you finally just gave your body the genuine rest it's begging for? The human endocrine system is absolutely fascinating, and really, this is just the beginning of understanding it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.